Hi, I'm Mark Puryear. I'm a research associate with the Smithsonian Center for Folk Life and Cultural Heritage, and have been curator here for a couple of programs in the Smithsonian Folklife Festival. I'm here with Phil Wiggins, harmonica player extraordinaire, and we're here to talk about the Smithsonian Folkways box set on Leadbelly.
I'm glad to be here too. Thinking about this, at first I was thinking, well, I don't really know that much about Leadbelly, but the truth is that I grew up with Leadbelly. I mean, his music was kind of in the soundtrack of my life growing up. I think probably where I first heard some of his songs was when I was in fourth grade. I had a teacher who every day right before nap time would break out a guitar and play some songs, and she would play a lot of songs that were made popular by Leadbelly. So when I think of all these like kind of iconic folk songs, his version of them are the ones that I hear that stand out for me. Songs like Midnight Special, Black Girl, Don't You Lie to Me, Tell Me Where'd You Sleep Last Night in the Pines, Where the Sun Never Shines. And growing up, I love those songs. And maybe you can shed some light on which ones he wrote and which ones he didn't.
Midnight Special, he did not write. That's considered untraditional. However, it does reference an experience of being in prison in Texas, and it was an experience I think a lot of African Americans had at that time in that region of the country. There were work farms, and you could get swept up off the street for vagrancy. So the song really references, it's rich in imagery, as a lot of Leadbelly's songs are, and I think historical context about the experience of being in prison and hearing trains going by, and really yearning for freedom. So that train, the story I've read and heard, it goes that the train's light actually shined as it went along the track, shined into the prison, and a lot of the prisoners there would see the light and hear the train, of course. And that line, that "Let Your Ever-Loving Light Shine on Me," references that, that was a real moment in their day or their time in prison to think about getting out of there. Most of Leadbelly's songs that really resonate with people do have a lot of historical content, a lot of references to historical time. When he was brought to New York by Alan and John Lomax, they capitalized a lot on Leadbelly's history of having been in prison. That was one of the ways they promoted him.
I think for me, like being like 9 years old and hearing these songs, I mean, and they're such strong, like you say, they capture a time, and like I'm thinking about like in Black Girl, there's a line about his head they found at the driver's wheel, his body they never did find. How does a 9-year-old process that, But at the same time, I mean, it got in my blood. I mean, that image, and a lot of other ones. And, it's like, I guess things kind of go in cycles because, I feel like from what he sang about, that he lived through some really hard and some really violent times. And when I say things go in cycles, I feel like I've also, seen some violent times in my lifetime. So nothing's new. But I think that one of the reasons why his stuff is so iconic is how vividly it captures the time period. Even things like, we mentioned Bourgeois Town, the song Bourgeois Town, and how we didn't really want to get into all that, but it talks about segregation and growing up in D.C. My parents were so good at protecting me from certain types of experiences that I'm not even sure when segregation ended in D.C., but I remember my older brother coming home one day and saying, we were talking about field trip, where the class might go for a field trip, and somebody mentioned Glen Echo, and then somebody else said, black people can't go to Glen Echo, but my brother hadn't realized that, and so I guess that was going on, and then you have the song Bourgeois Town where I guess Leadbelly had visited D.C. and was singing about that. I think so. For me, I mean, I've always loved blues, and country blues and acoustic blues, and I don't really think of Leadbelly as a blues player as much as I think of him as like a folk singer, folk musician. But again, I mean, this categories don't really mean that much. It's funny because like all these folks that they used to call Piedmont players, now they're calling them songsters, and most of them have been dead for a while, so they haven't really changed what they're doing. It's just changed how we talk about them. And but I like that term songster because I think Leadbelly, I think he fits good in that. Then again, I mean, he did play some blues like Alberta, I'm thinking about, and Rock Island Line, and man, when he would get a hold of like a straight up blues, he had like a mighty thumb. His thumb on the bass line was like a cannon. I mean, it's just because I mean a lot of the music that I deal with, I like to think of how it's like dance music. And if you're looking for the backbeat or if you're looking for the dance rhythm in a Leadbelly song, it's in the thumb. It's in that bass line.
I'm the poor boy and a stranger blowed in your town. Yes, I am. I'm the poor boy and I'm a stranger blowed in your town.